Well, howdy there, folks. It's a beautiful evening out here on the California coast, and figured why not take this opportunity to bring old Dime out here in the pasture, and we could go over some horse training advice. So, because the first four fundamentals are really good at teaching our horses how to be relaxed, rhythmic, impulsive, soft, subtle, and supple in the arena when we have fences all over us or all around us. But you may think to yourself, well, once in a while I like to go out and I like to trail ride. And certainly I do too. So what would you do in that case if you wanted to get out on the trail, but maybe your horse wasn't so far along as they could side pass, or you weren't quite there working on the backup yet? If your horse only knows the first four fundamentals, can I get out and ride on the trail? Now, if you're training your horse as a young colt, my general rule of thumb is I want to be able to get a horse to be able to open the gate with my horse before I take him out of that gate, just as a safety mechanism. You never know what you'll really encounter. But on the same token, we all have horses that, they're pretty easy, they're pretty broke, they may be 15 years old and they just don't side pass all that good, or they're not very good at backing up. And this is kind of one of those guys, actually. He never really was taught much of the lateral work or much of the deeper stuff, just yet anyway. So with a horse that doesn't have all those tools, can you get out and can you have a nice ride on the trail? Well, yeah, sure. Absolutely. How would you do that? By using the first four fundamentals. Now, we're going to use it in a slightly different way, because the first four is lateral flexion, move the hip, then bend to a stop, and then walk, trot, and canter on a loose rein. Now, it'd be pretty hard to walk, trot, and canter on a loose rein without steering at all out in a place like this. There's, fence posts everywhere, there's logs on the ground, there's holes and ruts. So we need to be able to steer a little bit. Oh, I might have some doofballs invading my shot here. I gotta go chase them away. Okay, so before we were interrupted there, I was talking about, using the first four fundamentals out on the trail, and how do we do that? So we are going to direct them a little bit if we get into any life-threatening scenarios, but basically it's going to be all the same as it was. Please do not. Oh, geez. Okay, so before we ran through there with the whole herd of horses, we were talking about using the first four fundamentals to train out on the trail. And basically we're going to do the same kind of scenario. Excuse me, Dime. I'm going to need to look there. The same kind of scenario as before with our horses in the arena, but we're just going to add a little bit more direction, and that's about it. So let's go ahead and run through it. Check step one works, and because the whole herd of horses ran through, Dime's feeling kind of antsy right now. So the first thing we do is just check, can we bend him to the inside? That's pretty good. And we know we can disengage him, we know we can bend him to a stop. And I had just tightened the cinch, so there we go. There's step number one there. I'll step away and see if that'll help the camera track me a little better. So right here, you see how he's kind of running on his own? I'll just go in for a number three. We'll bend around until he decides to come to a standstill. Good. Slip that in, and then he walks off again. I say, I didn't ask you to walk, sir. So we'll bend around till we come to a stop. Good. Then we'll check, can we bend to the right? A little nicer, yeah. Then can we bend to the left? Good. Check number 2, can you move the hip over? Pretty nice. You want to do this in a relatively flat area. You know, there's not too many holes or anything. There's a little grade here, but not too bad. Then I take my leg off and wait for the stop. But you see how he kind of took a side step there? I'm going to see if I can push his hips towards home. That way's home. That way he can kind of see right there, the moment his nose goes past home, he takes a whole other circle. So right here, I'm waiting for him to stop, and he keeps turning. And right there, when his nose faces home, he stops. And we'll go again, wait for him to find wherever the stop is. That's a little better. We're facing the other way. So that's kind of your safety check first, obviously. You saw him try and actually run off on us. So you just check anytime they start to walk off on their own, you didn't ask them for it, bend them around and wait for them to be able to stand still. Now the other thing this video is going to be really good at is teaching how to work with grassination a little bit, grass fascination. My philosophy on eating grass and all that kind of stuff is, as long as it doesn't interfere with the work, I'm okay with it. If you can grab a bite on the way, sure. But as soon as I can feel you thinking more about trying to get the grass than you are about what you're doing, then all that stops. And really what fascination with the grass, or what grassination is that it's the horse showing you that they're not focusing on you. So it's your challenge is to be able to gain their focus back. So say if I was sitting here and he went down for a little bite of grass, I'm going to allow that because I never told him to stop. But if I wanted him to stop, now he's getting one bite at a time. Let me take him up to where he has to get a little bit, work a little harder to get a mouthful. Ah, there we go. We caught up now. Okay, so bend around. Then I'm going to drop my reins, give him nice amount of slack here so that he can get as much, reach down to get a bite of grass if he needs it. And then we'll put 1 ounce of pressure on the reins and start adding pressure. In this case, I'll start to use my leg, but you can use your offhand, you can use a stick, anywhere that's just touching somewhere other than his mouth. So right there, he goes for a bite of grass. I'm going to put 1 ounce of pressure in my hand, and then maybe I'll start by tapping his backside. And the moment he picks his head up is when I get rid of all that pressure. Now, part of his grazing is actually like nervous eating. He's eating so that he can focus on something other than going towards home. But right there, he's focused on me a little bit more. He's not quite trying for that. And right there is where he starts to try. So put right there. You see that? I put 1 ounce of pressure in my fingertips, and then I only had to tap his backside twice. And then wherever you tap your horse, go back and rub it away again. So we've got lateral flex, we've got moving the hip, we've got bending to a stop. So now here's our forward motion. And this is where we do walk out on a loose rein. Now, you know, trot, canter, you can do all 3 speeds out in the pasture. Use your best judgment about where to do those things. You know, if there's a bunch of holes and stuff, maybe that is not the best place to go cantering around. I mean, it just depends on how long you want to keep your horse with you. But for the most part, when we're out on a trail ride, we're going to do a lot of walking and trotting. And really, what we're looking for is mainly walking. Now, Dime here may give me like speed up here. If we're this close to home already, now you see this barn over here with the white horse, that's his paddock. So this is the perfect place to work on a little Barnsourness. If he picks up speed when we're this close to home, I'm okay. I'm going to let him keep speeding up. And then when he gets to home, I'm just not going to let him stop. We're going to either walk or keep trotting, and I'm just going to start to ask for little steering movements. Not much, just enough to keep ourselves out of harm's way. There we go. So now here, as he's traveling out, even, that's okay too. Hold on. We'll reset here again. So he's gonna come up through the bushes and try and come up to the gate because he says, oh, this is where I get to quit. This is home. And so maybe we could go in for our disengage, but just do a little bit less and see if you can keep him moving around here. And when he faces the direction you want to head, release and let him travel out this way. See how he's kind of running around with a stiff up and down neck, sort of chicken with the head cut off kind of thing right now? Over time, that will go away. The more relaxed he gets, the more he's going to start hanging his neck. Right there, you give us a nice breath out. Good boy. There. So now, as he's traveling away from home, I'll just sit and relax. You know, I'll do as little as possible. If he takes me all the way out here and then stops, well, that's a good, I don't know, 150, 200 feet away from home. So I'm just gonna rest here and relax with him. Curing barn sourness is all about making the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy. So if he wants to be at home, he thinks that that's the good place to be, we'll just make being at home hard. We'll ask him to trot, we'll ask him to maybe change directions or walk around a little bit. But we won't let him stop his feet, and we won't let him graze, and we won't let him rest. But the moment he takes us out here all the way away from home, that might be a good spot to let him graze or let him rest. Because you can always get his focus again by 1 ounce of pressure in the rein, and then start to add more pressure here, there. And he decided that means walk off too. That was a little more pressure. But you see, he didn't really respond too big to that. So if he decides to walk off, you can either bend him to a stop back there, or you can go back in and we'll go for another round of making home difficult and making go away from home real easy. So no legs on, no hands on, the whole time we're headed towards home. And then pick a mental barrier. I'd say maybe 3 T-posts away from home is where I'm gonna start to make the work a little more difficult. So I'll just maybe squeeze my legs a little bit and just kind of ride with a little more intention, you know, ride with a little more energy. And he'll, you know, if he picks up the trot, that's okay. He's already decided he doesn't want to go near the mud pit back there, so that's good. But you'll see he and all my other horses, they start to like to circle that culvert. Then they'll, oh, that was a change. Look at that. Instead of coming across the bank there and going back towards home, he said, to heck with that. I know what happens when I go next to home. I have to go to work. And look what I said about that neck. It's already about half as high as it was the first time. So, in fact, teaching the first 4 fundamentals out here in the pasture, out on the trail, is not only a nice little activity or a side activity you can do, it's something that's pretty instrumental or pretty integral. Because when you're in the arena, you can get a really nice, really cruisy horse who has really good control of his gaits and his speed. The moment you ride out of the arena, all that good stuff is diminished. You get about 60% or 70% of what they've learned the moment you get out into an enriched environment like this. Now look, I've been riding this whole time. I'm not steering him left or right. He decided home is too much work. I'm gonna take you on out the other way. So, you know, in a nutshell, it's real easy to fix barn sourness. You just have to do a little horse judo. You have to first go with them where they want to be, and then make where they want to be a little more difficult, and then make where you want to be real easy. Kind of a 3-step process. And we've got our lateral flexion here. He's nice and soft. We know we can move his hip, and we know we can bend him to a stop. So we've got actually all 4 fundamentals out here already on the trail. Don't scare my horse now, buckaroo. But, so we're down here in the valley a little bit, or down here in the draw. But, okay, so right there, he stopped on his own. So I'll just rub, relax, hang out with him, let him get a bite of grass. Make being away from home, now we're 600 feet, 300 yards away from home, something like that. Maybe more, 700 yards. But anyway, so allowing your horse to, building momentum at home and then allowing your horse to carry it out here is that's going to be your saving grace. That's the easiest way of going about it. So let's go for a walk again. Let's see which way he goes. Look at that, no hands. I didn't steer him at all. I just asked him to walk. And he's taking me further up the draw here. That's pretty nice. Now, normally, you get to a certain point and your horse will start to look back, start to look for home again. So maybe I'll just turn him back towards home and see what happens. Because, once you get out a certain distance away from home, it's like stretching a rubber band or a spring. The further you get away, the stronger that draw is towards home. So, you got a horse that's real barn sour and you ride a mile away from home, the moment you turn back, you got galloping energy taking you towards home. But if you just kind of uncock the gun and keep checking back, keep trying to ride towards home, before you get a mile out, then you don't run into that problem. Look here, I'm riding with no hands on the reins. I'm not holding them back at all. And we're just at a nice, easy walk. And that's kind of what we're looking for out here, is we want our horses to be relaxed and calm and centered and ready to listen to us and listen for other things. And in fact, if you didn't have an arena, as long as it wasn't a colt that you were starting or something like that, if you didn't have an arena and you pretty much only had access to riding in pastures, you can get all 14 fundamentals done out in a pasture. It just takes a little bit more savvy and a little more time. But, and we all have, at least most of us have around our horses, a pasture like this where people board their horses out in and we're allowed to ride in. And, but you never see, or you rarely see, people taking advantage of a space like this, when this is probably one of the best spaces. It's the first place to dry out after a rainstorm usually. And, horses board in it all year long, so it's passable at least. Hey, look at that. We're headed straight towards home and he even stopped on his own. Granted, to take a number 2, but still, that's pretty good. So, but this is the perfect place to prepare your horse if you ever were to trailer out to, say, go trail riding or something like that. Let's keep walking here now. And in fact, I think it may be one of the most important things your horse can do. Look at this. He's not even taking us remotely towards home. He goes, this place is awesome. I get to graze out here. So, but if your horse was real interested, or if he was real interested in going home, and then you trailer him out to a place and the only place they know that's safe is the trailer, and you take them away from that and they're real excited to get back to the trailer, that would be a situation where prior proper preparation prevents poor performance. So if you have a pasture or just a grassy open space you can ride your horse in at home before taking them out into a completely foreign environment and seeing how far they can go away and how confident they are in themselves. If you, instead of that, you prepared your horse out here, your rides out on the trail would be a lot better. You know, and it doesn't take a lot of patience, and it doesn't take a lot of time to teach this kind of stuff. But it certainly goes a long way to creating a horse that you can ride your entire life. And it's a pretty day. So let's try again to work on the shaky foot there, sir. Work on that grassination a little bit. So I'll put 1 ounce of pressure here and then start adding pressure until that head comes up. There it is. And he doesn't even need to walk off. He can put his head back down again too. I'm just asking for focus in that one moment. There it is. So now instead of me using my hand, if I were to use my leg, it could look a lot more subtle. Now he's not pulling through my hand here. If I leave my hand up, he's responding to that 1 ounce of pressure when he finds it. But then if I drop my hand back, give him the opportunity to graze, then I maybe, instead of using my hand for rhythmic pressure, I could start to add my left leg in here just a little bit. I have one right there. And that can start to get pretty subtle, pretty quiet. And then, you know, so there's 1 ounce of pressure, and then I just talk to him right here, 1 ounce. Then I start to talk with my legs until that nose comes up. 1 ounce. And then leg, 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 and release. There. And wait for it. And so what you're really doing here is you're not stopping your horse from eating the grass. You're not punishing them for eating grass, because punishment doesn't actually get rid of any poor behaviors. Punishment just suppresses bad behaviors, and then they come out at insidious times. Instead, what we're doing is we're employing don't, say do. So we're saying, do lift your head, and do bring your focus to me, and then, but do stay still, instead of don't eat the grass. So wait for him. So right there, if I was to release, his nose is going to go straight back into the dirt. I can feel it. Right, I'll show you. If I release, the nose goes right back into the dirt. So then we put 1 ounce of pressure again. Reach on out here. Bend that neck. You can see how just practicing this over and over again is going to create suppleness in your horse. So I'm going to put 1 ounce of pressure. And there. I gave him, he took an extra step, but I gave him the opportunity to stand still again. So we'll put 1 ounce of pressure, then leg. Yep, there it is. You see how that's coming faster and faster now. Give him the chance. 1 ounce. Then, oh, that came faster, huh? Give him the chance. 1 ounce. Then that leg. Oh, yeah. And now I'm going to wait here. And we'll just see, can you stand? I'm going to just sit here with my reins just a tad shorter and see if you can just be okay with standing there. I'm not going to pull on him, but since my reins are already shorter than what it requires for him to graze, I'll just sit here. Then 1 ounce of pressure in the hand. The leg starts to wake the life up, and that time he got distracted. So I just rolled the spur up a little bit and said, hey, if you don't focus, things get louder. Let me turn him back so you can see again. Wait. There, right there, his mind was with me. So then 1 ounce of pressure, add my leg, there. And then we've got the forward motion again. So it's just kind of a little bit of a process, you know. If you're working on one thing, then the other, and you're never totally going to get rid of grass fascination. Why? Because it's like being a vegan and walking through a salad bar for your entire life. You know, sometimes you got to stop and take a snack. And you're not going to quite ever fix the Barnsourness, because if you think about how that gets trained in there, we put all the work on them everywhere else in the world, and then they get the rest in their stall. So that means everywhere else in the world is a little bit more difficult than being right in your pen at home. So that's why grassination and barnsourness are not really something you can like fix or cure per se. They're more so things that you manage over time. Yeah. We'll take him right on back towards home. Give him the option. There he goes, well, maybe I don't know, I'll see if I'll take it. And there, I felt him decide. He was almost going to turn back and try going back out into pasture again, which would be just fine with me. But instead, he's given us another opportunity to show you what to do. So we pick our line, maybe right here in the draw. Watch out, dogs. Right here in the draw is where we're going to just say, hey, we got to go work a little harder. There, he thought about going back into the muddy zone, and then he remembered. And so here, this is all his own momentum carrying him forward. As long as he's going forward like this, I'm just going to sit and ride with him. Look at this. He's taking me directly away from home. Now, he may even canter here. That's okay. You just go with him. Nice loose rein. Your horse isn't going to go all that fast. And if they do, or if you feel out of balance, bend around to a stop. Otherwise, we'll just take this momentum as far as it's going to go. Right here is, I thought he was going to turn and go home. He's just going to go find better grass. Hey, this is good. So you see also with a horse like him, he's a horse that needs to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And, he's what you would call, if you were looking at horse personalities, he's what you would call a left brain introvert. So you can get a long way with a little bit of honey with a left brain introvert. If you let them graze just a little bit, they remember that reward forever. That doesn't work so well with other horsenality types, but it's still, anytime a horse is grazing, it's a way of relaxing. So here I try and turn him towards home, and he almost is saying, no, let's go the other way. So somewhere out here, right in here, before we wouldn't want to do all that work at home and then get him out here and get him thinking about going, stopping the barnsourness and being supple with us. We wouldn't want to take all that work and undo it by riding him right back to the gate and hopping off him there, right? Because wherever you hop off your horse is a good place to be. So if we did all that work and we got him focusing in on us a little better, then maybe right out here, where he's taken us away from home quite a ways, that might be a good spot to swing off. It might even be a good place to loosen up the cinch just a little bit. And then that could be your cue that might have been a good workout for today. So anyway, first four fundamentals, they're kind of like, they're like taking a multivitamin. No, they're not like taking a multivitamin, because that's targeted. The first four fundamentals are like, eating a fruit platter and vegetables and all the other good stuff. It just gives you a full complex palette of all these good things. Gets your horse relaxed, impulsive, meaning he's at the pace you are. So if you're cantering along, you don't have to worry about him bolting or breaking down to the walk, vice versa. And it gets your horse to a point of, most people would call, if you were working on a colt or something and all you did was the first four fundamentals, you could call that horse green broke at least. So anyway, you know, it's a super useful exercise, super critical tool, and if you can use it with a little bit of artistry, it can go a long way. Let's go, dogs.